I want to hear. I know we've only seen it once. Both of us have only seen it once. It's still in theaters, I think, so I'm gonna try to see it again. But Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. So follows the character from the Shrek movies, Puss in Boots, played by Antonio Banderas, as he goes on a merry, jolly adventure through the wishing woods to get his wish granted by the last wishing star that falls from the sky and creates a big crater in the middle of this forest. And it's also a movie about confronting death and your own mortality and coming to peace with the fact that life isn't meaningful because you're alive, but it's because it all ends someday and we all die. So you cherish the time that you have on this planet. And also John Mulaney plays a villain who sticks his thumbs in pies. So it's a toss-up thematically. But I want to hear your first impressions, because we went to go see this together, having not seen the original Puss in Boots, which honestly I couldn't be bothered to watch until maybe after seeing this movie. But from what I've heard, and from our experience in the theater watching the second one, you don't necessarily need to watch the first Puss in Boots.
No.
So what'd you think?
I think I was with everyone else on the planet thinking, like, I don't give a shit. Who the fuck wants to see another Puss in Boots movie? like 11 years after the other one.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't give a shit. But you're like, oh, we gotta see it. I'm like, fine.
I did say that. Just like that.
So we went to go see it. And it was actually kind of really good.
Yeah, right?
It was objectively, like, a really damn good movie.
Yeah.
Like, I have not seen, like, the base Shreks in, like, probably, like, my entire lifetime ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, man. It's definitely up there with, like, the best ones.
Yeah. I honestly think this... I've been seeing people talk about how this might be in the top 5, like, DreamWorks animated movies of all time. Just all of the things that they've done. People really like the How to Train Your Dragon movies. People really like Shrek 2. I am people. I love Shrek 2. People like the Kung Fu Panda movies. But the fact that this one came out of the gate 11 years after the original, mind you, which ironically is, what was that, less time than Avatar? Or did the first Avatar also, that was like 2009, right?
Yeah, it's probably like the same amount of time.
Yeah. Side note, I love all of the memes from the fact that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and Avatar: The Way of Water were released at around the same time. And both movies came out much longer after their original entries came out. But both critically and audience-wise, Puss in Boots beat the Avatar sequel. So people have been dunking on Avatar ever since they found out that, you know, critic and audience ratings are like generally higher for Puss in Boots. And so you'll just see pictures of side by side. They'll have like you know, like the nerd versus Chad memes. They'll have there's recently been this meme format on TikTok where they'll show like the poster for a movie or a game or whatever, and then they'll have a little bracket, you know, in like the first 10% of the poster saying like, oh yeah, this is a fun kids movie, you know, and it looks really good. And then the next 90% is like this whole paragraph about how death comes for us all and we all have to come. Yeah. It's so the villain in this movie, spoilers, is who appears to be at first the big bad wolf, right? Because Shrek and its properties use a lot of fairy tale characters and stories and stuff. So you think going into this movie that the wolf with the toothed scythes that has red eyes and has to fight Puss in Boots, you think it's going to be the big bad wolf. No, it's death. It's a personification of the Grim Reaper, which makes the scythes even cooler because it's just, they're not scythes, they're sickles.
I mean, Was it any like actual surprise? Like, of course it was death. I knew that from the beginning.
I did not figure that out from the beginning, but I did think that it was weird that conveniently the wolf showed up wherever Puss in Boots was. Like,
Yeah, and he's on his last life. Like, yeah.
yeah, so
That's
Puss in
dumb.
Boots has lost 8 of his lives, and he's on his last life. So his whole
Which
goal
was a very good montage.
yeah, in one of them, he's like super buff and he's lifting weights and he's like, "What do you mean? I don't need someone to spot me. I'm Puss in Boots." And then the weight like crushes him and he dies, and that's one of the ways that he dies.
Yeah.
In another one, he's drunk and he's like, "Cats always land on their feet," and then he falls off of like a 50-story building. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great montage, but like there are so many things about this movie that should not be as good and well thought out as they are. Like, I didn't know until after the fact. So in the beginning sequence of the movie, he's fighting this forest giant set to an incredible theme song that's talking about how, you know, he's this fearless hero and like he doesn't fear death because he's Puss in Boots. But really it's because he has 9 lives because he's a cat. But he's fighting this forest giant, and the movie takes cues from Into the Spider-Verse where they utilize this. It's this beautiful, like they draw, like all of the backdrops are so vibrant and colorful, and it looks like they're like paintings. And the characters on screen, they don't look super realistic like the other Shrek movies have done before, but they look more stylized and like softer. But during action scenes, the frame rate drops, and like it really emphasizes the action and the motion of certain characters. So the fight sequence between Puss in Boots and this forest giant are the fight sequence itself is very impressive. Technically, it's directed really well, it's animated really well. But there's also a bell that gets thrown around by the monster that apparently chimes 8 times, once for each time that Puss in Boots has died. And the last time that it chimes is when it falls on him, killing him for the 8th time. So I'm like, little things like that you go back to the movie after. That's why I can't stop thinking about it, because there's just so many aspects of Puss in Boots that stick with you. There's a scene where the dog, Perito, he finds Puss in Boots having a panic attack because obviously if you're confronting death and you know it's like the end for you, you start to freak out. And so Puss in Boots runs inside the forest that they're in and finds a little tree to like hide under. And the little dog, who early in the movie is like, yeah, I'm going to be a therapy dog. And he has like, it's played for laughs, but then like he goes up to Puss as he's having this panic attack and he just puts his little chin on Puss's stomach, and then Puss like starts to like pet him and like breathe slower, and like, I don't know. It's just moments like that like that really get you, especially if you're someone who deals with anxiety or has panic attacks and like you have a pet that knows that can kind of like tell that you're not like. I never believed this when my mom used to tell me like in high school I would be sick or whatever, and then my dog would come up to me and be like super sweet, and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's because he knows you're sick." And I'm like, "There's no way he knows I'm sick." But it just kept happening over and over again, and so I think pets do have this innate sense of like they can tell when another animal is like under the weather. I don't know. I could go on and on about this movie, but yeah. What'd you think of the cast, particularly John Mulaney as the villain, as fucking Jack? What's his face?
Little Jack
Warner.
Yeah, the thumb in the pie thing.
Yeah, Jack Horner.
Yeah, which I haven't. My God, how long has it been since I heard that like story? I was like, oh shit, I remember that one.
And they even play on that in the movie. Like,
yeah, he's like, no one knows who I am. I'm just this stupid asshole. And yeah, no, he was really good. I mean, the dog, I thought was going to be really annoying.
Yeah,
but then he wasn't.
Yeah.
And just like visually, it was really good, especially every time they'd grab the map and like everything, like the world would change around them.
Yeah.
Or like the whole like mirror sequence when he's in the cave
with all of his past lives.
Yeah.
That's
And
such a good scene.
yeah. The death, the dog thing, I think was done really well too.
It was legitimately scary.
Every time the whistle, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I like the whistle sound.
It gives you chills a little bit. Well, and he shows up and like you see his eyes first and then you see the outlines of the sickles and he never like runs up to someone. He's always just like walking slowly and he's always just standing there menacingly. But yeah, I don't think a single part of this movie was handled poorly. I think yeah, the score was great, the direction was great, the fight scenes. Who knew that there would be fight scenes in a Puss in Boots movie that I would be talking about and comparing in my head to like scenes from anime? Like it's just like the clash between characters and the perspective shifts and the way that they draw these characters in motion. It's just impressive on almost every level. Like it's the sequel to Puss in Boots should not be this good. It has no right being this good, but
it's just one of those rare instances. I mean, we haven't seen the original.
yeah.
But like every now and again, a sequel comes along and it's better than the original in every single way.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think this might Puss in Boots: The Last Wish might be a contender for one of the best animated movies that I've seen in the last like 5 years. Like I think it's that good. And the general consensus among people on the internet that I watch and reviewers that I have seen videos of talking about this movie urge people who are watching the video to go see this in theaters because that'll encourage DreamWorks to make more movies like this and hire people with inspired ideas. And this felt like a passion project. Like it felt like there were genuinely people making this movie that weren't just trying to, make a movie for a cash grab or like make a movie that they knew would sell well because it's an animated movie and they were making it for kids. Like granted, there are plenty of jokes in this movie that kids will laugh at and enjoy, but I feel like there's more to enjoy for adults or people who have like had to confront death in one way or another. Like there's a lot of trying to find comfort in knowing that even though we're all going to die someday, it's easy to dwell on that, but it's more important to focus on what you have in front of you and cherish that while you're here, rather than focus on, what all can I get done before I die? Like what accomplishments can I, how do I make my life valuable? When really life is precious and valuable, without having to do anything. It's just like on its own, life is precious. So it's a really beautiful sentiment, and I'm not going to tear up talking about a fucking Puss in Boots movie, but I did tear up watching the movie. So go see it if you haven't. I know you can rent it from home. Did you think this was better than Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes, fuck that movie.
Yeah, which I
hated that movie.
It may or may not win a lot of awards. We'll see.